let's go over to Alabama at Wisconsin. Whoa, Wisconsin 15.5 points. Um, if that line stays up, I can go ahead and tell you right now. I'll just bet plus the points because that's a ton of points here in this football game.
Well, that's
Over
at
under
that's at
set.
FanDuel. That's at FanDuel. So if you want to bet it now. Some other books have kind of opened up at like 9.5 points. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really good number to bet on if you can on FanDuel today. Like go ahead and do that. That's your that's not betting advice, but that's kind of what I would play. Give you guys a little bit of something to think about there because that number will move for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, it will. All right, so we watched Alabama really struggle this past week with South Florida, and it had a lot to do with South Florida being able to ideologically kind of put Alabama, paint them in a corner a little bit. Like, okay, we're going to take away the run game. Alabama was not able to run, at least early in the game, was not able to run the football. And when you take the run away from Alabama, you really cause a conundrum on their offense because this isn't a team that's just going to throw their way to victory. Okay. On the other hand of this, you've got Wisconsin, who brings in Mr. Van Dimes himself, right? And Wisconsin was one of the first games I watched this year. Their game, that first game of the year, was one of the first ones I watched. And going into that game, I felt really good about Wisconsin and bringing in Tyler Van Dyke and some of the other options that they brought in through the transfer portal or recruiting. And then I watched the game and I remembered why Tyler Van Dyke, I felt had mixed feelings about him the year before. He's very inconsistent, but this air raid system that Phil Longo runs at Wisconsin, if ran correctly, could cause some pretty serious problems for an Alabama defense that I feel like their secondary is their weakness this year, especially after losing Caleb Downs. Lots of young guys in that secondary. Linebacker core for Alabama is top 5 in the country. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. And the defensive line, I would say, is pretty mid as far as Alabama's standards are concerned. A couple of nice pieces there, but not something that is just like overwhelming in this football game. What are your thoughts, man? I like the schemes that Wisconsin is going to bring into this football game against this Alabama defense, but I'm not so sure they can execute. What are your thoughts on this one?
Man, I really am kind of puzzled as far as how this game is going to go. I thought I had a pretty good idea of what Alabama was going to be, and then they go out and just lay a big old stinking egg against South Florida. Um, Look ahead game. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you kind of make of that and how you sort of factor that into your rankings here and all that when you look at what Alabama is moving forward. Um, I'm concerned about this Alabama offense and particularly on the offensive line. They struggled to block South Florida. Does Wisconsin's defense? I mean, are they going to be able to exploit a poor rushing offense? You know, for Alabama. I mean, I don't know that they really can. They're ranked 60th in the country right now in rushing yards allowed at 121.5 yards per game. They're giving up 4 yards per rush. That's 70th in the country. And they really haven't played anyone yet. So what are they going to do against Alabama? I'm not sure that this is necessarily the matchup that if you're looking to beat Alabama, I don't know if this is the matchup you look to exploit. I'm with you. I think that Tyler Van Dyke is going to have to go over the top if you want to beat Alabama. Challenge these young DBs that they're talented but they're young. Can they go over the top with Tyler Van Dimes? I mean, if he has one of his best games, I think Wisconsin absolutely can win this game. But we've seen the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of Tyler Van Dyke's game throughout the years, and I just he's kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't know what we're gonna get out of him. and that to me is kind of what is going to decide this game. Admittedly, I haven't gone back and watched Wisconsin play, game or play by play or anything like that. This will be kind of my first game watching them throughout the entirety of the game. But you look at what Alabama did against South Florida, and your immediate thought is, dang, they're going to struggle this year. However, we saw them face South Florida last year in a similar fashion and squeak by with a win, and they ended up going to the playoffs. So I'm also not going to take too much out of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there could be a case where Alabama kind of out physicals Wisconsin in this game and wins it in the third and fourth quarter. I would not be betting on Alabama to cover 15.5. If you like Alabama in this game, maybe you wait for that number to drop to where you can get it at 9 or something like that. But to me, that's kind of my play of the week. I know this is a short preview. I don't have a ton of data right now, but Tuesday night, if you guys come back and watch our show on Tuesday night, we'll go through our full preview of this matchup between Alabama and Wisconsin. But as of right now, from a betting perspective, I'm waiting on this number to drop, and I'm gonna bet Alabama, by 2 touchdowns or 2 scores, I should say. I think it could be like a 10 or 14 point win for Alabama this week.
Well, before we get off the subject, if Wisconsin can figure out a way to run the football a little bit, that's going to alleviate a lot of things. Now, that's much easier said than done on this Alabama defense that I feel like is going to be pretty decent against the rush, but we just saw South Florida run the ball on them. So Wisconsin's got to incorporate a little bit more rush game into their game. But let's kind of talk more about the Alabama side of it for just a second. Caden Proctor sat on the sidelines this past weekend, didn't play, and it caused this offensive line to be completely jumbled up. And it really just kind of ruined everything for a large portion in this game. I forget who it was. It was number 75, I think, was playing right guard. He had 4 holding penalties in this game for Alabama. And he got to a point where Coach DeBoer on the sideline was like, just like, oh, like, are you kidding me? Kind of hard to watch. What a choppy game it was. Very undisciplined, very unorganized, it seemed like, for Alabama in that football game. And I'm going to let all y'all know I watched a bunch of football this past weekend, Alabama included in this. If your tackles don't line up on the line of scrimmage this year, you're getting called for illegal formation. I don't know if everybody's noticed that or not, but we got to where in football we were trying to back these tackles off the line a little bit and give them a second to react to these ends, and the refs ain't having it. And I think it's going to end up helping the defensive lines out just a little bit. But that's kind of neither here nor there. Alabama has got to figure out a way to run the football in this game. Wisconsin gave up 125 yards rushing to South Dakota this past weekend. Won 27-13 over South Dakota. Not a good football team. Not South Dakota State, just straight up old South Dakota, right? I believe that Wisconsin's strength in their defense kind of lies in that secondary. They got some unbelievable playmakers in that secondary. I'm still waiting on that defensive line to step it up. And this is going to be their opportunity to do it because at the end of that South Florida game, Alabama ran the football like it was nobody's business. That's how they won this football game and covered up their tracks and made this game look like it wasn't close. Getting Jam Miller going, getting Sanders going, not Sanders, Haynes, Justice Haynes. Getting those guys going was really what ended up helping Alabama pull away from this. And we talked about last week, Alabama, it doesn't seem like Kalen DeBoer is going to try to make Alabama something that they're not. And if that's going to be the case, then they're going to need to get Caden Proctor back healthy. We'll talk about that more this week. We'll check on his status. I'm not sure what that status is. But if he's not back, it really starts to throw a wrench in things for Alabama and the primary thing that they want to do on offense. So I got to do some more research myself on this one, see some of the injury reports. but and we got to watch some line movement but I believe that this game, as of right now, I feel like the line should be 10. If I was to make my own line, I feel like Alabama would be favored by 10 in this one. And that's a fun little game that I like to play on Saturday nights as well. Anything else on this one, Mason?
Nope. We'll like I said, we'll look at it later on. On Tuesday. You can bet this at Caesars at 9 points right now. So just so y'all know, MGM has it at 9.5, and DraftKings has it at 16.5. So this number is all over the place. I mean, we're talking about a touchdown discrepancy here. It's just kind of a weird one to open up with, but let's see where it's at Tuesday night and make some predictions then.